Hello everyone, my name is Canan Turk. Today I'm going to talk about narrative research design. First of all, I would like to give you an overview of the definition of narrative. A narrative is an account of events occurring over time. Brunner says the loose link between intentional states and subsequent action is the reason why narrative accounts cannot provide casual explanations. What they supply, instead, is the basis for interpreting why a character acted as he or she did. Interpretation is concerned with reasons for things happening, rather than strictly with their causes. Barthes described narrative as a presence in every age and every place, in every society. It begins with the very history of mankind, and there nowhere is nor has been a people without narrative. All classes, all human groups have their narratives, enjoyment of which is very often shared by men with different, even opposing cultural backgrounds. We can extend the definitions with one made by Polkinghorne. Narrative is a fundamental scheme for linking individual human actions and events into interrelated aspects of an understandable composite. After expressing the meaning of the word narrative, I want to go on with the description of narrative inquiry. Among many studies to identify the narrative design in qualitative research, John Creswell's books are thought to be serving as a handbook. Creswell categorizes qualitative approaches to inquiry as narrative research, phenomenology, grounded research, ethnography, and case study. He also emphasized the importance of choosing the qualitative approach according to the focus of the research. Some researchers define the narrative approach as a method of inquiry in qualitative or interpretive research family. Others present the narrative approach as a frame of reference in a research process. Narratives behaves as producers and transmitters of reality. In other words, narrative can be both a method and the phenomenon of a study. Narrative can be chronological relation of an event series in written or spoken text. We can simply define narrative inquiry as a subcategory of qualitative research design. The term itself is explained in various ways by researchers. The narrator compiles all the events and happenings as a temporal unity. Brunner designates two types of cognition as paradigmatic and narrative. Creswell employs numerous alternatives of research design for proposal developers to develop an outline of topics to define their method. Narrative inquiry is a preferable method for many researchers in education field or investigating issue also in health and social areas. We are more likely to observe the human experience and what one think of these experiences in his life within social, cultural, and historical contexts. Another important thing here is the key characteristics of narrative inquiry. We can start our narrative inquiry to express the experiences of individuals as stories. As spoken or written narrative, researchers uses individual life in the time sequence or chronology of events. Stories tell of experiences, but they also illuminate how a person understands or constructs their identity. Stories may be collected or constructed between participant and researcher. They can vary in creative methods of storytelling as life history portraying one person's entire life. Coding the themes helps researchers to add depth to the understanding of one's life. Context or place collaboration is included in narratives. They can be described before events. Very flexible methodology is used. multiple methodologies falling under the same umbrella. Creswell says when we have a research question, we collect some data in order to address that question. Here he points at the extensive opportunities how to define our strategy for collecting data. Data can be in the form of field notes, journal records, interview transcripts, one's own and others' observations, storytelling, letter writing, autobiographical writing, documents such as school and class plans, newsletters, and other texts such as rules and principles and pictures. Different from Connolly and Clendenin, Creswell here groups them in four categories as open-ended interviews, open-ended observations, documents such as newspaper articles, private diaries, minutes from a meeting, and audiovisual materials such as pictures can be collected here, or pictures can be shown to the participants to interpret, or videotaping can be used in a classroom. Here I want to show you a narrative research question example. How do university students study the ways in which they cope with loss and trauma to find meaning in that experience? In that research, findings show that it is really important for students to organize their experiences to make sense of them. In making sense, they impose meaning by constructing and reconstructing stories of loss. Another example to narrative inquiry here is the refugee children's adaptation to American early childhood classrooms. The research question that guided this study was, what do the stories of Canan, refugee children, and their families reveal about the children's adaptation to an American early childhood classroom? Phenomenological research definition and background. A narrative examines the experiences and reports the collection of data related with this one person's life. Yet, a phenomenological study focuses on the data collected separately from many people, asking their experiences of a concept or a phenomenon. This study aims to define what is common when each participant experiences the phenomenon. Phenomenological studies can be set under two groups. One is hermeneutic, interpretive, and the other one transcendental, descriptive kind of studies. Here, Creswell favors a systematic methodology outlined by Mustakas, in which participants are asked two broad general questions. What have you experienced in terms of phenomenon? And what context of situations have typically influenced your experiences of the phenomenon? Here we can see the pictures of participant children in the refugee children research example.